Hi. Okay, so I'm back here and trying to figure out the correct P and I settings for this craft. I accidentally broke my 30-inch upper propeller. I didn't have one in spare, so I used a 26-inch propeller. And I did think that this was not going to work really. And you will have a torque difference between the upper and lower motor. But the huge array of control surfaces managed that torque difference just like perfect. You cannot even see that the surfaces are tilted in any direction. So now I'm systematically going to go through these restrictors from 19 millimeters up to the full stick throw and see if I can tune away that ringing action, that overcorrection action of the craft when I'm going fast forward. So I have actually already lowered my P and I settings. The P gain is gone down from 110 to 80, and I'm going to try and see here in incremental steps if that has had a positive effect on the ringing. So I'm starting out here with the 19 millimeter restrictor. And I don't expect to have a lot of angle of attack of the craft with this short stick throw. So this is full forward, and you can see the craft rising slightly when I'm halting the forward moment. So it's a sign of that the upper surface is not doing any lifting work at all. It's mainly just there for dampening. And now I'm trying out the 21 millimeter restrictor, so I can pitch the craft a little bit more forward, and that turns out just fine. And you can see here with every step of having more authority over the craft, going faster and faster forward, it starts to rocket up after I have halted the forward motion. So the conclusion there is that the surfaces on top of the craft is really not doing any good aerodynamic work at all. So even when I pitch the craft significantly forward, they really don't contribute to lift at all. You can see here I start to rise when I halt the forward motion. So I have a lot of excessive thrust there that went into going forward, and when I halt the forward motion it starts to make the craft just go straight up. So yeah, that went well, the 23 millimeter restrictor. So I'm going up to 25 here. So you see that the craft is leaning more and more forward. It's going faster and faster, and I'm waiting for the super scary overcorrection ringing that might or might not be recoverable. But so far it seems that the gain, lowering the gain, is making the flight more fluid and less twitchy. And now I'm flying with the 27 millimeter restrictor. So no ringing there either. So it's time for the last restrictor I have, the 29 millimeter. It gives you almost the full throw of the stick, and I expect the craft to be tilting quite a lot forward, perhaps overshooting. Nope. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. Of course, these are very short runs, but it still gives you a good indication of what to expect if you would keep pushing it full. So, time to try the full stick movement, and that would mean I think 45 degrees of pitch of the craft, which is my goal for now. Okay, here goes nothing. Ooh, that was kind of a sketchy ending, but it was no oscillation, so I'm very pleased with that. And kind of surprised. I thought that I would have to alter the structure and perhaps add more dampening surfaces, but it turns out that it was just a matter of tuning the flight controller. So I still think it's a little bit non-unfluid and twitchy, but it doesn't result in a crash if you do the full stick movements, and that's a good start. And it takes a lot of power to fly in the fully forward direction, or pitched fully forward. I pretty much have to go full throttle. And these motors are run on 8 cells right now, and with the 30-inch propellers they're actually rated to run on 12 cells. So I could almost double the power to the motors without overheating them. So I could have a setup which would have plenty of power to go 45 degrees forward without losing altitude. But right now it's just barely manageable. But I would really like to work with the surfaces to make them contribute to lift when I'm going full forward flight, so that I could reduce the throttle rather than going max throttle to make it hold its altitude. But this was a good step forward anyway. I just wanted to share the improvement from the previous series of crashes. Yeah, another thing that relates to barely being able to fly because you're out of power is one of the benefits with a multi-rotor of this type, and that is that you don't need to spare any overhead power to be able to have control over the craft. The typical multi-rotor, you use quite a lot of power just to control the craft, especially in yaw. The pitch and roll is much less energy consuming, but to have a snappy or powerful yaw you need to have quite a lot of extra power needed, more than the power needed to lift the actual payload or the craft itself. But in this setup you can really use up all the power to lift the device and whatever you have attached to it, and you still will have a perfectly crisp control, since all the air is blowing over the control surfaces at all the time. So that's a neat thing with this kind of multi-rotor. Of course, if you planned on building a manned version, you will have to have overhead power, simply because you need to be able to take a motor failure, so you need multiple motors, of course, driving these propellers. But still you need to have less overhead power than a conventional multi-rotor, since you control your attitude with the control surfaces rather than with extra power from the motors. Okay, this is just kind of a victory flight. The aircraft is still in one piece, and that's quite unusual for me when I'm doing these tests and learning stuff. I usually break a lot of stuff, so this was a very pleasant ending for this test flight. Yeah, that's all for now. Bye.